Vision News. Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Happy Monday to everybody out there. I hope you had a great new beginning this past Saturday and Sunday and that you feel refreshed and just looking forward to the week. I'm so glad it warmed up. It warmed up really surprisingly quickly in Georgia because last Monday we were in the 40s, and then this past new beginning we were in the 80s. I walked outside and somebody was like, "Aren't you hot?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I'd been inside all day. So I was like, "Oh, it's 80 degrees." I was like, "Oh, okay." Right? Just that transition that quickly. So with that, let's get into our kids' corner.
Today he faces a challenge that makes him nervous. It's his first time presenting in front of the class. Alex walks to the front, his heart pounding. The class is watching, but he remembers something important. The night before, his mom reminded him, "It's okay to be nervous. Just do your best and remember, you've got this." As Alex begins, his hands shake, but he takes a deep breath just like his mom told him. Whoops, Alex made a small mistake. Feel his face turning red, but he didn't stop. Alex takes a deep breath and keeps going. The more he speaks, the better he feels. Finally, he finishes. His heart still races, but now it's with pride, not fear. The teacher smiles and says, "Great job, Alex. You faced your fear and you did it." That night, Alex feels proud. He learned that facing challenges head-on helps build confidence. No matter how big or small the challenge, facing it will always make you stronger. You've got this too.
Yes, you've got this. And I think that confidence is needed, not only for children, but for adults. So, some of you maybe headed to work today and you've got a presentation, you might be nervous, or you might need to have a difficult conversation. Yeah, you got this. Trust in God. And if you are someone who isn't a person of faith, just know you've got this. Okay, and with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. So God, please protect our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over our mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please protect our reproductive organs and help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet and help us walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are just joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, that is a prayer that we say daily. There are some times where I might get into another prayer, but I try to say that one daily. And Spud, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning to you too, and amen. And a patty cake says DC weather is crazy. Hot today, snow tomorrow. I know, right? The north is going through some transition. I thought we had civil weather down here in Georgia. I was like, wait a minute. Didn't you just have snow like 3 or 4 days ago? I know. And see, this is what happens when you allow cloud seeding. Okay. Look, and this is how you get ants, right? it's it's one of those things. Cause yeah. But when you try to, how should I say, man, you know how we think we can control the weather and we've got to do this. We start messing with stuff. This is the fallout, right? Can't mess with everything. And then say, there's climate change. Yeah, because you're purposely messing with the climate. Stop it. Let's talk about that part. Let's talk about the interference. Okay. It's not a natural occurrence. It's because you keep messing with stuff and you keep putting chemicals in the air and then you keep wondering why things are happening and then you want to blame something else. Stop that. Stop that. Now we're going to get into a few different areas today, but first let's look at our trending topics on X. Now these topics can change, so they might change by 9 o'clock. They might change in the next half hour, but these are just the topics that I found so far. So let's check those out. So the first one is Trump pushes Senate to skip Easter recess for voter ID bill. So Trump demanded lawmakers stay in Washington to attach the Save America Act to a DHS funding bill. No. Okay, which will require proof of citizenship like passports or real IDs for federal voter registration and voter ID at polls. The push comes during a 38-day partial shutdown, furloughing thousands amid Republican claims it secures elections and Democrat arguments it suppresses votes. Thune said, we'll see on skipping the March 30th to April 10th recess as public polls show broad support for voter ID despite partisan Senate gridlock. Okay, so let's take a step back. The reason why they're not trying to push the Save America Act without the 60 votes is politically, let's just say the Democrats were in majority, right? And they wanted to push forward a bill that might not be as great for America, right? Or it might be. They're trying to get the right type of support, okay, for the Save America Act, which includes this voter ID separate from any financial bill. Because with the finance, right, with the government shutdown, and it's kind of funny because they're just going to pass a continuing resolution. It's not going to be a clean bill. They haven't passed a clean bill since 2012, y'all. It's been over a decade. But anyway, so with the financial bill, they have to have 60 votes, period. Anything attached to money, it has to have those 60 votes. That's why I kind of went, oh, don't say that. Don't do that. Now, with the Save America Act, could the Republicans just push it through? They could because it's not a financial bill. It's litigation, right? It's literally law. It's legislative, period. Totally separate. But when you combine it with the finance, you have to have those 60 votes. So is this a matter of, hey, we're going to guilt you into this, Democrats, because people are not going to work and you've put everybody at risk? I mean, and it's the type of risk that you've put everybody in. You know, the TSA workers, yes, their job is to screen everybody going through the airports, obviously, because we don't want anything blowing up in the airport. But when I say major risk, because backing up all of those individuals, you are leaving them as sitting pawns. They've already gotten, hit with missiles in places. I want to say, was it India or it was somewhere over there where one of the airports got struck with people in them. We don't want that over here, but you're putting everybody at risk of that. I mean, there was already, we're going to get into some of the things that have happened over this weekend due to lack of TSA workers. So, Congress, what are you really doing? You're not helping America right now. And for those thinking, hey, I'm going to stand strong with the Democratic Party, you're not helping the American people. This is about party for you at this point, Democrats. This is not about the people. You could care less about the people. Jeffrey's already let it out the bag because he doesn't want ICE agents at voter polls. Why not? Who do you think they're going to catch? Huh? You already said illegals aren't voting. So why are you concerned about them being at voter polls? They wouldn't be intimidating anybody. Even if they were there, they're not there. I'm just saying, but even if they were, like, what are you talking about? This is about party. This all the shutdown, everything. This is about party. This is not about the people, because if this was about the people, this would have been done. We wouldn't even be in a shutdown right now if this was about the people. So we already know what this is about. Now, the next topic, let's get to it. There are journalists that were assaulted investigating Skid Row. So James O'Keefe of O'Keefe Media Group and reporter Cam Higby led the investigation into alleged fraud, where petitioners offered homeless people cash, cigarettes, marijuana for signatures on petitions backed by Uber and airlines. Undercover footage shows signers using fake addresses like Pinocchio Lane, violating California laws against inductments. Sorry if I mispronounced that. The confrontation left O'Keefe's cameraman punched. Police are investigating after a battery report with echoes of a 2018 felony case in the same area. So let's watch this brief. Oh, wow, it's not brief. It's 7 minutes. Oh, my goodness. So here it is. Here's James O'Keefe. My team, myself, and Cam Higby were just violently assaulted on Skid Row. My camera crew were punched in the neck and face and were pepper sprayed, but thankfully just escaped. Some members of our team had to run 10 blocks to get out. Wow. So let's check this out.
Hey. I got you. I'm not from out here. Leave him alone. Get away from him. I'm not from out here. Get out of the way. Whoa, he punched him. Let's go. Go, James. Straight, James, straight. Go. Make a left. Look, here's a petition right here. James, here's a petition right here. Hey, I was wondering, what can I get for us? Right here. This is on camera. Right here. I want it. What about the free phone? You signed the petition, right? Right here. The guy who broke the law in the video. Sir, can I look at the petition? He's the guy who broke the law in the video. Can I look at the petition? not breaking any law. Can I look at the petition?
Cigarettes for signatures. It's against the law in California.
We ain't breaking the law, bro.
It's against the law in California to give cigarettes and tags.
I ain't giving tags. I ain't giving nothing away. I give free cell phones. I give free cell phones.
We have you guys on camera shouting money for petitions.
I don't do money. I don't do money.
We have you shouting money and cigarettes.
I don't do money.
Can we look at the petition? What's that? You're going to show me down? We're just asking questions. I got my spray ready to go. Oh, I'm fine. That guy.
And this is just sad. This is Los Angeles, California, and they have got these porta potties out here for individuals that are homeless living on the street. They roughly pay over $90,000 per homeless person. You're paying $90,000 for people to remain on the street. Why can't you at least give, I would say, $70,000, $80,000 per person to make sure they're not living on the street, to make sure they have the proper rehabilitation, right? But it's more profitable to have them out on the street. What do you think's gonna happen? It's really crazy to me what's happening in Los Angeles right now.
I almost found out, though. We don't have to ask you in a public space. We're just asking questions. Here's the petition. We're gonna have to run. Whoa. Whoa. We can get it. He's going slow. Let's go. We're offering cigarettes. Hey. I'm not from
Come on, guys. Get out of here.
Keep running. Let's go. Go, James. Straight, James. Straight. Go. Make a left.
Get everybody. We have everybody?
They rolled up. Attacked. Pepper spray. Make a right. Make it right.
Where we going?
Straight.
Where we going?
I got you. Keep going. I know where we're going. Just gonna attack. Keep going. I know where we're going. Okay, slow down. You're good. With that stoplight, I'm gonna make it right. I got you.
Yeah. He defended himself legally. James O'Keefe is missing. We're trying to find him. We're trying to locate James O'Keefe right now. A group of them attacked us. They have a car. I saw a DMV thing on their car. We found some of our crew. We're here live in Skid Row. Look, this is our camera guy. He got punched in the neck by one of the illegal petitioners. He punched our guy in the neck.
Mike's losing his voice.
Oh, I got pepper spray in my mouth. We were attacked. We're trying to find James O'Keefe.
Now, remember, the pepper spray was sprayed by somebody on O'Keefe's team to kind of disrupt the situation. So, yeah, you're going to kind of get caught up in that when you're the one doing the pepper spray. But again, I mean, when I look at these parts of Los Angeles, I used to walk down here with my kids because it's near the garment district. I used to take my kids down, but there weren't as many homeless people as there are now. There were some, but not as many as there are now.
Keith, we're trying to locate James O'Keefe right now. We got attacked on Skid Row by illegal petitioners.
You're gonna go down here and you're gonna make a right. I'm keeping you away from Weingarten.
And this doesn't make sense. Like, look at those. It's like those a completely newer building, and then it just went to blight.
Just trust me.
and homeless encampments. Like, what are we doing?
I'm keeping you away from that
What
place.
are we doing in America?
You make a right up here.
And there
I
are
got
people,
paper
these
spray.
cars, people are living in these cars, you guys.
He attacked me.
You okay?
Yeah.
These cars that are
We did
operational.
our
They're
show
living in
literally
them.
right
Those
here,
are their
and then we
homes.
decided to go mobile and try to find some of the petitioners. We found them, and they weren't happy to the point that they got aggressive and tried to attack us, and then they ran away. We followed them to their car to show the petitions, and they got even more aggressive, and they tried to jump us, 3 of them, which resulted in me deploying pepper spray on them as they were in the process of punching one of our filmers. And yeah, I mean, we did what we had to. Of course, you never want to do anything like that, but sometimes you have to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Are you going to arrest these people?
I ain't get involved in that, so no comment.
No comment? They're engaging in illegal petition fraud here?
I saw one of your videos already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But guess what? The police in Los Angeles are usually told to stand down. See, that's why this stuff isn't getting broken up. They literally have policies that say you can't interrupt anything. It'll be investigated later. Will it? Are you sure? I mean, there have been videos where O'Keefe's talking about, like, yeah, you know, Gavin Newsom and Gary Bass, they say they're going to work with us. No, they're not. They say that. They're not. And this is, look, those petitions, they're supposed to have ballot signatures on there. So if they're putting measures on the ballots, it's based on the signatures. And so in some instances, they're like, we don't care. You can put your dog's name on there and a fake address because no one's verifying the information. So again, what's really going on? It's really sad. Okay, and then our third topic. Oh, that was my important one. Where did my third topic go? Oops, there it is. No, that I guess that's it. This is where we're going. I did have a third topic. Got journalists investigating. Okay. Yeah, that's it. This is the third one. So not only that, they have found the largest healthcare fraud in U.S. history. Operation Gold Rush exposes 14.6 billion medical scam. 324 have been charged. So Gitmo awaits 324 doctors, nurses, and executives charged in the largest healthcare fraud in U.S. history. Operation Gold Rush uncovers 14.6 billion in scams, mansions, crypto, and luxury stolen with your tax money. This isn't just corruption, it's organized medical betrayal. Yeah, so let's see what they said at this press conference, and there's Dr. Oz there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Gagliotti, and I'm the head of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. Thank you all for joining us today as we announce the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice. Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. In a takedown this large, I can't possibly describe all of the work that went into dismantling each scheme, but there are 4 key points that bear emphasizing. First, let me be clear about what these healthcare fraud schemes mean for every hardworking American family. These criminals didn't just steal someone else's money. They stole from you. Every fraudulent claim, every fake billing, every kickback scheme represents money taken directly from the pockets of American taxpayers who fund these essential programs through their hard work and sacrifice. And when criminals defraud these programs, they're not just committing theft. They're driving up our national deficit and threatening the long-term viability of healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and our most vulnerable citizens. This enforcement action involves the seizure of cash, as well as luxury vehicles and properties, returning real money to American taxpayers and to our government healthcare programs. Second, we are seeing a disturbing trend of transnational criminal organizations engaging in increasingly sophisticated and complex criminal schemes that defraud the American healthcare system. As part of this takedown, we've identified and charged defendants operating from Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries. These individuals have infiltrated our healthcare system to steal American taxpayer dollars. As just one example, we dismantled a scheme involving a sophisticated operation run from Russia and Eastern Europe that strategically bought dozens of medical supply companies in the United States and submitted more than $10 billion in fraudulent healthcare claims to Medicare. To make matters worse, these perpetrators used the stolen identities of more than 1 million Americans, spanning all 50 states, to perpetrate this scheme and submit these false claims. But I'm pleased to report that federal agents intercepted and arrested key members of that organization at U.S. airports and the U.S.-Mexico border, cutting off their intended escape routes. The days of transnational criminal organizations using the American healthcare programs as their personal piggy bank are over. Third, this takedown resulted in criminal charges against 74 defendants, including medical professionals who fueled America's deadly opioid crisis for personal profit. These are not isolated instances of poor judgment. These are calculated schemes designed to exploit Americans struggling with addiction while enriching the very people who were duty-bound to help them heal. We charged pill mill operators who prescribed unnecessary opioids. We dismantled networks of corrupt pharmacies that existed solely to distribute drugs to addicts and dealers, feeding the addiction crisis that has devastated so many American communities. This is not healthcare. It is a staggering breach of trust. And under my leadership, the criminal division will prosecute these criminals as aggressively as we would any drug dealer, because that's exactly what they are. Fourth, many of the defendants charged as part of this takedown specifically targeted our most vulnerable citizens, elderly Americans in nursing homes, individuals with disabilities, those battling serious illnesses, and more. For example, our prosecutors charged 7 defendants, including 5 medical professionals, in connection with approximately $1 billion in fraudulent claims to Medicare and other healthcare benefit programs for performing medically unnecessary skin grafts on dying patients as they were seeking to spend their final days with dignity and peace. That conduct is exactly as callous and disturbing as it sounds. Patients and their families trusted these providers with their lives. Instead of receiving care, they became victims of elaborate criminal schemes.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, this is about the money. This is about helping people. This is about the money. So my whole thing is cut it off. Y'all push the button to cut the checks, stop the money. And then let every hit dog holler. Because when their money is cut off, they're going to be like, hey, why aren't you sending? Until it's investigated, audited, and there's some compliance around it, I don't want another dime sent to anybody, period. Because the bad part is, and this is something that was happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota in particular, we just use them. And the reason why, in my opinion, it's ground zero is because it kind of opened up the floodgates to like, okay, if this is happening here, where else is it happening? Right? And months ago, and this was back in October, November, they were saying then it was billions of dollars. Now, that was just in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But when California came into the conversation, it was like over 256 billion. This is just what they found directly. And they were able to pinpoint it to people. They were like, okay, we found just 14.6 billion that came out. There's still over 200 billion going on. Shut the money off. Do not allow any other payments to go out or be distributed. I'm just saying we need emergency lockdown on any payments to anybody where any fraud has been found. Am I wrong? Just tell me I'm wrong. That it shouldn't be shut off. Shut the faucet off. It's trillions. Yeah. It's crazy. Hey, Cajun lady, she said, sending positive vibes, and thank you for joining us this morning. And Ozzy says they are working so hard to keep themselves on the plantation. It is crazy. Oh, and thank you, Uncle Coolwater, for reposting the stream. And Ozzy says, Dems know that they would never win an honest election. It is crazy. It is insane. Yeah, again, Elon Musk says it's trillions. It is. Shut it off. Shut it off. These are programs. And I know that there are people in hospice that they need, right? They need the care. But here's the deal. These medical facilities, if they are operating truthfully, right? Because there are some. We can't broad brush it and say everybody's committing fraud. There are some that are truly providing medical assistance. You should be able to operate without the funding if you are a true facility. But if you're operating fraudulently, oh, you're going to be hollering. You're going to be mad. Oh, cut off the money. So I'm saying shut the faucet off. Shut the faucet off. Federal government, because you have the ability to do it. You have the ability to say, we're not sending any more money. It already happened, right? When they cut off FEMA last year. And the hotels were like, we're not going to be able to function. Yeah, you are right. You're not. And you shouldn't be functioning now. And FEMA should not be taking care of people that are here illegally. They shut that off. They clawed back some of the money. That's all I'm saying. Shut it off. And then we'll see how this shakes out. Now, I also wanted to give us an update on what's happening with the shutdown before I get into any more of these videos. So as of March 23rd, the United States federal government is experiencing a partial shutdown, specifically targeting DHS. This has been ongoing since February 14th. Okay, it's now in its 37th day, making it one of the longer partial shutdowns in American history. And you think it odd because the only person that has been caught up in all these shutdowns has been Donald Trump. So you're making the rest of America suffer because the alt you have against one person, that's the president of the United States, making it seem like it's bigger than him. We can't trust any of you, Republicans or Democrats. You guys need to get your work done for the American people. None of you should be put back in office. None of you. None of you. Senate or House. If any incumbent goes back into office, they should be tried. Period. They should be tried. We, the American people, we're over it. We're sick and tired of it. We're done. All of you. Resign now. Resign now. Because even that won't save you from an investigation. Because we need to have all of you investigating. We need to take our country back as citizens of this country. We have a republic, and they have run it into the ground. They are doing everything they can to destabilize America. Where do you start? The money. They've allowed all of this to go on. The corruption I just showed you, that's allowed. Somebody on the inside knows exactly what's going on. They are tied to this money. But see, you're looking at the people carrying out the crime when you're not looking in your own house at the people pushing the button, allowing the crime to continue. Let's just talk about that part. Stop that. No one's forcing the button to be pushed, but somebody is holding a gun to that person's head that is pushing the button to release the money. Who are they? Find them and try them. Period. They know this corruption's been going on for decades. Let's have a real conversation about that. Just saying. Now, scope. Only DHS is largely shut down or operating on limited emergency funding and staffing. This includes major components such as TSA, right, leading to staffing shortages, longer airport security lines, increased callouts, okay, and measures like suspending TSA pre-check global entry in places, customer and border protection, immigration customs enforcement, U.S. Coast Guard, FEMA, limited responses, U.S. Secret Service, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So we have all these agencies that are funded under DHS, but really the only two that don't have to worry about their funding are these two. Really? They're paid. They got what, 89 billion cut under the big beautiful bill. So you're not messing with their funding, but you're messing with everybody else's money. And it's cascading down. Now it's affecting the American people. And you don't care. Both of these parties are responsible for this. So the rest of the federal government remains fully open and funded, including agencies under Defense, Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Interior, Justice, NASA, EPA, and others. Essential services like Social Security payments, Medicare, mail delivery, USPS, and most other operations continue normally. So this is just a focus on DHS because they're like, they need body cameras and they need to take their masks off. Really? Really? It's about more than that. This is more than that because, like I said, Jeffrey's already let the cat out of the bag. He doesn't want ICE agents at voting polls. Whoever said that they were going to be at voting polls, but now they need to be. Thank you for your admission of guilt. Okay, so the shutdown stems from congressional deadlock over reforms, ICE and CBP operations, partially immigration enforcement, and oversight. This intensified after incidents like shootings involving ICBP agents in Minnesota in January and other events tied to enforcement policies. Funding for DHS was extended briefly to mid-February for negotiations, but no bipartisan compromise was reached on reforms as a condition of continued funding. So recent developments, the Senate votes, including recent attempts on March 20th through the 22nd to advance DHS funding bills, have failed, often along partisan lines. Now, negotiations between the White House, Senate, Democrats, and Republicans continue but remain stalled, with blame traded publicly. White House statements calling it a Democrats' shutdown, while others cite disputes over enforcement reforms. To mitigate impacts, President Trump announced deployment of ICE agents to assist at airports starting around March 23rd, 24th, 2026 to help offset TSA shortages and reduce travel disruptions. Some TSA employees have gone without full pay for weeks, though back pay is typically provided once resolved, leading to resignations and operational strain. Because see, your landlord doesn't care if you're not getting paid. They care about getting paid because they still have to pay the mortgage on the residents that you're paying them rent to. Your kids going hungry, that's a thing. You not being able to get back and forth to work. So what are the TSA agents supposed to do? This is disgusting. So background time contest. This follows a full government shutdown on October 1st to November 12th. Was that record was 43 days. So we are 6 days from that, and a partial shutdown in late February. So no end is in sight based on latest reports with Congress. Okay, so I probably spelled speculate wrong. Sorry, you guys. But some speculate there is a larger scheme to create confusion within government. Is there any proof of that? No, there's no credible proof of a larger scheme to deliberately create confusion within the government. Now, speculation about hidden motives behind the ongoing shutdown is widespread, especially on social media partisan outlets. So Democrats are sabotaging Homeland Security to hurt Trump administration or force policy changes. Republicans in the White House are using the standoff as leverage or even welcoming chaos for political gain ahead of the midterms, and fringe theories about a deep state plot, election interference, or intentional weakening of borders and security. Like I said, destabilization. They've hit the money, they've hit the security. I mean, we are at war with our federal government as citizens of this country because now they've, communications are still going, but they are still under attack, right? What you say, what you do. Transportation, they've hit that. The ability to protect ourselves is being eroded in a way, right? We've got Virginia, they're writing policies where you can and cannot carry a firearm to protect yourself, which is a violation of the Constitution because no individual, you cannot policy your way to eliminate people's protections of individuals. Like you just can't do that. So I definitely see there's going to be some challenges here in America, but what I mean by they've partially done it is because they're leaving people vulnerable, right? Bringing in ICE at the airports does give another level of protection, but there's still other things going on. You're still messing with the traffic control. Traffic control falls under this. Now, it didn't bring them up as being affected or not. I didn't ask that direct question, but they are being affected. So the shutdown stems from a public partisan deadlock over attaching immigration enforcement reforms. We read over that. And this is why speculation persists. Shutdowns are inherently messy and disruptive, right? This is the third major funding crisis since late 2025. So fatigue and distrust amplify conspiracy talk, but correlation is not evidence of a secret master plan. And here's, my take on it. And I'm sorry I didn't show you guys all that on screen and I just read it. But my take on this is that they're going to want the people to beg for a solution worse than the problem it solves. Okay? Worse than the problem it solves. That's the issue. That is the entire issue. Let me bring this up because I like you guys to know what I'm reading from. So I will definitely have this link in the repost so you guys can go through it and check it out. You might want to ask Grok some other questions. But what would be worse? We're going to bring in AI, right? To alleviate the need for humans so we don't go through this back up again, right? Because robots don't care if they're getting paid or not. Humans do. So what other freedoms are you going to ask us to relinquish to open this up? That's the question I'm asking. And again, that goes back to the question, are they going to suggest a solution that is worse than the problem it is trying to solve right now? It's crazy. And Elon Musk, thank you for speaking facts. Thank you. I appreciate you, and thank you for joining us this morning. But those are the bigger questions that I don't see being asked or answered. I mean, we are in such a rush with this whole AI thing to eliminate ourselves. Really? I think I'm going to have to pull up that video from a couple of years back where it says you will own nothing and be happy. Right? Living in a 10 by 12, basically a storage unit with just enough room to rest. Because if AI is doing anything, what are humans good for again? Yeah, we are in such a rush to eliminate ourselves. We have to take a step back and think about that. And that needs to stop. We're a little bit more precious than that. Just saying. Now, we're going to get into our next topic because unfortunately somebody was lost this weekend. You may like him, you may not, but Mueller passed away.
Mueller, the FBI director who transformed the nation's premier law enforcement agency into a terrorism-fighting force after September 11th attacks, and who later became a special counsel in the charge of investigating ties between Russia and Donald Trump's presidential campaign, has died, according to the Associated Press and his family. He was 81 years old. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani on with us today to discuss this. And Nima, you and I were going to talk about a completely different story today. And then we heard about Mueller's passing, and we decided to talk about what he's really known for to today's generation. For a lot of people, the Mueller investigation was their first exposure to how a special counsel even works. And then it really turned into this national daily drama at the time. What did this investigation become, and really why did this investigation become so much bigger than a typical federal probe does, Nima?
Austin, obviously, Mueller is known for Russiagate, and I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but since his passing, I do want to say that, you know, he was considered really an icon in the legal community, the longest-running FBI director, of course, appointed by Bush just a week before 9/11. Obama kept him on. You know, I was also hired by a Bush U.S. attorney. I stayed on for an Obama U.S. attorney. I was much lower in the Department of Justice, but really a great legal mind, and you know, he certainly will be missed. You know, but obviously, I think everyone does know him for the Russia investigation. And setting aside how he's viewed in the legal community, I think folks in the political community, those who are watching, and probably social media comments online, do have very strong views about Mueller because of his handling of the Russia investigation. So for folks that don't remember, he investigated alleged collusion during the 2016 presidential election. And when he was appointed special counsel, he also investigated obstruction of justice by the president, then Donald Trump, also now Donald Trump, and folks in his administration. So this was the beginning of the Russia hoax, or the witch hunt, that the president still believes Mueller was responsible for. And for people who believe that the Department of Justice has been weaponized, this was really the beginning of that. So there are a lot of people who are watching who probably believe that Mueller's role really tarnished the president and really the legacy of the Department of Justice.
You know, some people might have this notion, as you allude to, that he was the single kind of figure, I guess, that people associate with that investigation. Why ultimately was a guy like him chosen for that job, special counsel at the time?
Well, he was very well respected. Here's someone who was a Vietnam veteran. He served at the U.S. Attorney's Office in California and in Massachusetts. He obviously was the former director of the FBI, and he also served in very high-level positions at the Department of Justice. So really someone that had dedicated his life to public service and the country. Really couldn't have been at least at the time, someone that had more bipartisan support. Really, every time he was appointed to these positions, he had almost unanimous consent in the Senate. I think the issue with the Russia investigation is, and he did conclude that Russia did indeed interfere with the 2016 election through social media and through hacking the DNC and Hillary Clinton's emails. You know, the question was, did candidate Trump, now President Trump, collude with the Russians? That was the conspiracy. And he did not find sufficient evidence to move forward with a conspiracy. But he also didn't exonerate the president either. So by not picking a lane, he really left a bad taste in sort of everyone's mouth. He ruled that, or he didn't rule his findings in his report that was ultimately submitted to Attorney General Bill Barr and Congress, was that there really just wasn't enough evidence to move forward with either a conspiracy prosecution or an obstruction prosecution. So obviously that sort of infuriated Democrats. And at the same time, he didn't really exonerate the president either by saying he hadn't committed a crime and we didn't clear him. So there were many lingering questions, obviously, that sort of resulted in impeachment proceedings. And really, his conclusion was that on the legal side, nothing can be done because we're talking about a sitting president. So it has to be handled in the political sphere through Congress, through those impeachment proceedings, which ended up happening. Obviously, that ended up happening not just once, but twice. So on the legal side, I think folks really question, you know, what was the ultimate outcome of this probe, this special counsel investigation, especially when the president really tried to fire him at some point. And the conclusion, I don't think, really satisfied anyone. And that's the legacy that he left.
Yeah, you know, that in mind, what do you think is the biggest lasting lesson from that entire investigation?
Well, we've had FBI director since then, Comey, obviously. We had the Jack Smith special counsel investigation, again, one that resulted in at least criminal filings, but that didn't end up anywhere either. So, you know, the question is, you know, looking back, obviously hindsight being 2020, certainly we want to investigate crimes, but you know, did we really open up a political Pandora's box, right? Now we see a very different Department of Justice, a very different FBI, highly politicized. And, you know, maybe I'm just thinking about my own experience at the DOJ when, you know, law and politics, you know, really were separate. Now those lines are completely blurred. So I know folks aren't happy with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, people at the DOJ right now, or Kash Patel. You know, the question is, was it Mueller that really started all this? And is there a way to unwind it? I think probably not. We've really gone too far.
Former federal
Well, it wasn't Mueller's fault. He was hired as a special prosecutor. He didn't jump this off Bill Barr. You know what I'm saying? There were other people that put him in place. They jumped this off. And just like they said, they blurred the lines between law and politics. And they are supposed to be two things that are separate, right? That's why we have three branches of government. We have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have the judicial. We've got judges stopping the president from what he's doing. And then we've got Congress running behind the judges saying, hey, that's illegal. But you guys are the ones who write the laws. Like, what are you doing? It's crazy. It's insane. But this is what they're doing. Running around, blaming each other, and then wanting us, again, to beg for a solution that is worse than the problem it solves. Now, if any of you guys have been following the conflict, I'm not calling it a war. People keep calling it a war. If it's a war, then everybody needs to go to prison. Because wars, you know, you got to have the backing of Congress. So stop calling it a war. It is a conflict. I even have to correct Grok, like, stop calling it a war. It is a conflict. Okay? So let's get a little bit of an update on what's going on.
President Trump warning Iran to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or the U.S. will obliterate Iran's power plants, giving them 48 hours before strikes would start. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with more. Trey.
Yeah, hey, Peter, good morning. As Operation Epic Fury continues into week 4, President Trump is issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime. Overnight, he took to Truth Social to say, quote, if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The president talking about this critical waterway that has been frozen as a result of Iranian threats against shipping vessels. Today, I asked Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about the president's statement.
Overnight, President Trump said that if in 48 hours the Iranians don't open the Strait of Hormuz, that there will be strikes against the power grids in Iran. Will you participate in those strikes, and what do you think should happen next in this campaign?
I think President Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and whatever we do together, and as far as possible in confidence.
The Prime Minister also talked about the growing Iranian missile threat. Over the weekend, we saw 2 missiles trying to target the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. This is more than 2,000 miles away from Iranian territory, and an indication that the Iranians were not being transparent when it comes to their medium-range ballistic missiles. And this is significant because, as the Prime Minister told me, it means that Europe is now under threat as a result of this Iranian missile program. Now, the IDF, you can see in this video here, over the weekend is going after many of the storage facilities for Iran's ballistic missiles. They've also taken out a number of the country's launchers. The former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, describing what exactly the current Iranian missile threat looks like.
It's important that Europe now wakes up, understands that America and Israel, with the leadership of President Trump, are preventing a nuclear Iranian nightmare on all of Europe. We're fighting this war to protect them. Now the lie has been revealed. Iran has missiles that can reach Madrid, that can reach Berlin, that can reach Paris. And now they suddenly woke up and understand that they're under an Iranian threat.
At the location where we interviewed Bennett and Netanyahu, more than 100 people were wounded last night by a single Iranian ballistic missile when it exploded in a residential area. Peter?
Great reporting as always. Thank you, Trey. Let's bring in now the former commanding officer of the USS Cole, Kirk Lippold. Kirk, somehow with whatever's left of Iran's military, they have fired for the first time these 2 IRBMs. We've got a map that we're going to put up. Intermediate range ballistic missiles. Iran missed. They were aiming at the U.S.-UK base in the Indian Ocean, Diego Garcia. But if they aim the other way, the left of this map, those IRBMs bring into their range Rome, Munich, Paris, London, Berlin, Oslo, and Moscow. How big of a problem is this?
It's a very big problem, Peter. When you look at it, what everyone has claimed, we had no imminent threat prior to this going. Number one, it proves the Iranians have been lying about their ballistic missile program the entire time. Number two, now the Europeans, with the largest land war since World War II going on with Ukraine and Russia, is now under threat from Iran as well. It is an active threat. We are in engaged conflict with Iran today, and the Europeans better now realize that when President Trump asks for their help, it's not just for us, it's for them as well.
And to your point there about the allies, if Iran has shown in the last 3 weeks that they will shoot missiles at their pals in the Gulf, what is stopping them from trying to hit Paris?
Absolutely nothing. And that's where the danger lies. Iran, as we continue to degrade their capability, as we continue to execute this military plan where we are gracefully degrading their capability to project power out from Iran, out into the Strait of Hormuz, we now need to be sure that we can also go after these intermediate range ballistic missiles because they do represent a threat. And ultimately, Europe is going to have to get on board and join us to make sure that we can take Iran out, have a change of government, and allow the people to begin to build their future.
Are you surprised that after 3+ weeks of epic fury, big bombs going off all over Iran, their army, air force, and navies all decimated, that they can still blast off these intermediate range ballistic missiles that could go thousands of miles, hit some European capital?
Peter, Iran's a big country. And they had a very dispersed military, just like we do around our country. And the fact is, they still have remnants that have capability. They're going to exercise that capability. And as the regime begins to degrade even further, when they sense they are actually going to lose power, what they're going to do is lash out in unpredictable ways. If you have an intermediate range ballistic missile, What's to say that they can't plant something on that would be a true war changer on the continent of Europe? Because they're going to view Europe as aiding the United States, and they're going to begin to lash out in ways that are desperate to try and preserve their power.
We know commanders-in-chief don't like to be surprised. President Trump told us about his big surprise this week with Epic Fury. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that might be their retaliation?
Nobody, no. The greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit.
Are you surprised to hear that?
I'm actually not. I think that at the end of the day, you can brief all you want, but the reality is once conflict started, it becomes predictable. What you try to do as a military is you want to be able to predict as well as possible what the reaction of the enemy is going to be when you engage them, but they are always going to try something or do something different than you anticipate. Part of the reason you go through the practice and the drills you do in the military is so that you can react in ways that are unexpected, so that you can at first, you try to deter them, and then you want to degrade their capability to do it, and then you want to eliminate it. And that's exactly what Secretary of War Hegseth and the President have done with Iran.
These Iranian generals, the third string, whoever's left, they're kind of threatening an eye for an eye now. The Iranian military says to U.S. officials, from now on, based on the information we have about you, even parks, recreational areas, and tourist destinations anywhere in the world will no longer be safe for you. Do you see that as a real threat if the Iranian regime has been so hollowed out already?
Even with the threat that it may appear hollow, you have to take them at their word. What they're demonstrating yet again is that they have no respect for international law. The rules-based world order never existed in their eyes. They do not care if it violates Geneva Convention. What they're going to do is they're going to lash out in any way they see possible. I mean, they're willing to execute 19-year-old wrestlers for participating in protests. They are ruthless, they will kill, and they have no moral or ethical compass whatsoever. And they will continue to do that. That's why this regime needs to be taken out and ultimately destroyed. We've spent 47 years, that the senator previously just mentioned, trying to deal with this regime, and it finally took the moral courage of President Trump to say, enough, we're drawing the line. Hundreds of Americans dead, thousands maimed and injured. It is time to hold this Iranian regime accountable for what they've done.
Kirk Leopold, you have a new book out. What's it called?
It's not old.
Okay. Yeah. But we don't talk about the young men and women that may be sent into this conflict. And what does victory look like? That's the question. What does victory look like? Does victory look like, okay, Iran goes, all right, we'll capitulate, we won't send any more missiles, we won't create any more missiles, we'll have enough to defend ourselves if we're attacked, but yeah, we'll agree with you. Like, really? It's like a hornet's nest right now. You shook it. The hornets are, laying out their stingers, and you're wondering, like, how are we getting stung? Well, it shook the hornet's nest. Like, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? Now we're dealing with this again, like I said. Where does this go next? Where does this go next? And how are our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, how are they going to be affected? Is this another Vietnam is the question. That's the broader question. Is this another Vietnam? And that's the question I have. Right. Now, I did not ask ChatGPT that, but I did ask, what is the update on the confrontation, right? The conflict we're having. It's an ongoing full-scale war between Iran and Israel and a U.S.-Israel-led coalition that began on February 20. Now, this is how Grok is framing it. It's a full-scale war. There's been no boots on the ground, though, but they're calling it a full-scale war. We can't be at war because, again, like I said, if we were logistically, everybody would have to go to prison because Congress is not involved. This is not funded. Like, what are we doing? Congress, I need y'all to get it together. You need to figure this out. Figure it out. Just saying. So they've got U.S. and Israeli airstrikes have targeted Iranian military infrastructure, and we know about that, right? And Iran's response include multiple waves of ballistic missile barrages against Israel, right? Reported in a 24-hour period on March 21st, hitting areas in southern central Israel, such as Dimona, near the nuclear reactor Arad, Tel Aviv, and others. These have caused injuries, over 100 in some recent attacks, property damage, and civilian impacts, though Israeli defenses have intercepted many. Iran has increasingly used cluster munitions. Okay. On the 21st, Iran launched 2 long-range ballistic missiles at the U.S.-UK joint base in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, over 4,000 kilometers away. One failed in flight, and the U.S. intercepted the other. This marked Iran's furthest attempted strike and demonstrated extended missile range beyond its previous claimed limits. And we don't know what's going on straight to Hormuz, leadership and internal dynamics in Iran. So for broader context, and I'm just going to say the conflict, an alleged war, stems from initial U.S.-Israeli strikes aimed at degrading Iran's nuclear missile programs, preventing nuclear weapon development. Yeah, that's what started all this. So I said, how is the conflict affecting airports and other large gatherings? Because that's what you got to remember. So you got DHS on the one hand, not funding the areas that we need funded for security. All right. That's why we even have the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11. So you've got that part. And then you've got this conflict going on. So could these locations be on high alert threat, high threat alert, being that there are large numbers of people there? So you've got the airports. I got tons of people in there. If I were a sick regime, I would focus on the backed up airports. I'd focus on New York, Atlanta, and California. Why? Because those are the 3 of the largest international airports that we have on soil. And those are just facts. And they don't have to be hit with an external missile. We already have sleeper cells around the country. You know, those are the things that we need to be concerned about. And it says, yes, the ongoing U.S.-Israel versus Iran conflict, now in its 4th week, is significantly disrupting airports and raising serious security concerns for large gatherings worldwide. So we already know about the impacts on airports, but it's affecting Dubai. Okay. It's affecting Israel near Tel Aviv. Over 3,000 flights canceled in the first days alone, right? And that's across Iran, Israel, UAE, Qatar. Largest gatherings in crowded spaces. Right now, we're looking at parks, tourist sites, recreational areas, hotels, and large public events. U.S. Department worldwide caution alert as of the 22nd warns that Iran-linked groups may target transportation hubs, airports, and like stations, like train stations, subway stations, large gatherings, tourist locations, shopping malls, entertainment venues, sports and cultural events, anywhere Americans or Westerners congregate. So a high threat level confirmed. Yes, authorities in U.S., Europe, Israel, and Gulf states have ramped up police, military presence at stadiums, concerts, malls, religious sites, and festivals exactly because crowds higher impact potential. DHS and local law enforcement are on high alert for proxy or lone actor attacks, right? Like vehicles, knives, drones, etc. So in the U.S., domestic risk remains low but monitored, but venues are adding bag checks, metal detectors, and canine units to avoid protests or demonstrations abroad. So in my opinion, it's higher than what they're saying. Now, this is a horrible thing to say. but I'm going to say allegedly. They want the people in the United States to have a false sense of security. So when something pops off, then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, right? But on top of, I can't believe that this happened, what would our response be? Do whatever you need to do to keep us safe. That's the problem that I see. Us giving up more of our civil liberties for this. What happened with 9/11? That's how we got the Patriot Act. Yeah. And that's what I see being the issue. So recommendations, because I'm in Georgia. Of course, this is Grok. Monitor the U.S. State Department travel site, TSA, FAA alerts. Enroll in STEP Smart Travel Enrollment Program if traveling internationally. For local events or ATL airport, expect visible extra security and stay vigilant. Yeah, because you have to. But again, are we in a rush to replace ourselves? Is this, in my opinion, the advent of robotics within our airports? Could TSA be replaced by robots? Everything that we do be automated. Everything. From the entrance and exit to the restaurant operations, which would include maybe humans in the back, but you wouldn't be interacting with humans, right? Just place your order. You might have a human serve you, but you have to pay for everything on the kiosk. They're already conditioning everybody to do this. I need people to understand this. Yeah. So is that what we're looking at? Is that truly what we're looking at? And with that, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into some more of this news about the conflicts going on and see where this all shakes out. But thanks so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News on this Monday recap. And we will see you on the other side.
Lineage. Legacy. Leverage. Genealogy is the lane. Community is the destination. But care, that's how we get there. At TBAT Task Force, we don't just research history. We reclaim what was stolen. For Black American descendants, proving who you are is the first step toward reparative justice and recognition.
Get 4 hours of expert research, a verified certificate, and a care-based session to guide your next steps. A $155 contribution doesn't just fund your search, it fuels 5 community positions. It's a cycle of growth.
Ready to claim your history? Start your journey or book a free care call today. Your legacy is waiting.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. Energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Now, let's get into some of the news going on over here on all sides. And yes, we are still getting into the conflicts going on. So there's Trump threatens to strike Iranian power plants. Iran vows retaliation. So here we go, right? What is going on? So on Saturday, President Trump threatened to strike Iranian power plants if the country doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz by Monday. That's today. Okay. So in a Truth Social post, Trump wrote the U.S. would obliterate Iran's various power plants if it didn't open the strait up within 48 hours. The warning came after Iranian strikes targeted two cities in southern Israel, Damana and Arad, which are close to Israel's main nuclear research center on Saturday. The Israel Defense Forces, the IDF. So whenever you hear IDF, that's what they're talking about. Said roughly 180 people had been injured. Officials told Washington Post, that leans left bias, that Iran had turned to this extreme option earlier in the conflict than anticipated, and that its ability to control the strait had been proven more complicated. Now see how they're calling it a conflict and not war. It's like I said, we're still at conflict mode. There have been no boots on the ground. There's no congressional input. So this is a conflict. This is not a war. So let's not get it confused. Now, Iran responded on Sunday that it would retaliate across the region if the U.S. carried out its threat, including targeting all energy infrastructure, as well as U.S.-linked information technology and water desalinization facilities. That would mean no clean water over there. Okay. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, also told Iranian media it would also completely close the Strait of Hormuz if the U.S. attacked. In a statement on Friday, the IRGC said Iran was impatiently waiting for the arrival of thousands of U.S. Marines currently headed to the region and is prepared to give them a close-up view of naval surprises, according to the Washington Post. So now we're just egging it on. Now they're just like, yeah, come on. We want this smoke. Really? Again, I don't want our babies involved in an ongoing conflict that is meaningless. If this can be avoided, let's avoid it. You know, I do appreciate Donald Trump when he would say, you know, what is it? Strength in these conflicts so they don't lead to any war. We need that peace through strength right now. Okay. So in a Washington Post quoted a senior former Israeli security official who said the U.S.'s hesitation underscores concerns that Iran's hold on the strait has been more resilient and complicated than anticipated. It highlighted uncertainty about the U.S.'s ability to secure the strait and noted potential danger to U.S. military personnel in relation to Iran's strikes on Damana and Arad. NPR, that leans left, authorities refuse to confirm or deny whether Israel has nuclear weapons. Outlets on the right generally emphasize the 48-hour deadline Trump gave Iran, framing it as an ultimatum and noting it represents an escalation in Trump's rhetoric surrounding the war. And this is still a conflict. Breitbart on the right described the threat as Trump's ratcheting up of pressure on Iran's leadership, while Fox on the right contextualized the story within Trump's recent comments that NATO didn't have the courage to help the U.S. reopen the strait. Well, there's a lot still going on with the strait now, right? We know that Iran is working directly with China. China's like, yeah, let's do this transaction in the yuan and not in US dollars. So the dollar is losing value. The yuan is regaining value. So this is not just about a power struggle in that. This is also very economic. Very economic. Okay. We need to still keep that in mind. And I kind of like how all sides will break out things like this. So here's some insight, how the war affects you. So we got the gas prices. We've got soldiers unfortunately losing their lives. And then we've got the strait here being blocked, right? So how has the conflict raised U.S. consumer costs, right? This I'm going to say conflict instead of war, has disrupted the global energy market and supply chains, leading to higher costs for some key U.S. consumer goods. The most immediate impact has been on global oil prices, which we've all seen that, which have risen nearly 50% since February 28th and 75% since the beginning of 2026. So on March 15th, the national average price of a gallon of gas was roughly $3.90, an increase of $1 since the start of the conflict. So that means prior to that, it was under $3, right under $3. Now, Iranian forces have also maintained control over the Strait of Hormuz, which facilitates transportation for roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. So 20% doesn't sound like a lot, but 20% is a lot depending on what it's fueling. Okay. So for diesel drivers, including delivery trucks, the impact is harder as the average price reaches $4.83 per gallon, a 28% increase from last month. This has been aided by the decline of oil being exported from Iran and Iranian retaliatory attacks target ships, infrastructure, and shipping efforts that oil tankers travel through. Now, food prices are also being affected as the conflict has increased the cost, of several key agricultural resources, including fuel and fertilizer. So obviously fertilizer is needed for the crops, but you still have to get the fertilizer to where it's going. And the fuel cost, we're all paying for that. It all trickles down, but it ends up on the backs of the consumer. So here's my thing. Are you prepared? Do you have that reserve food supply, right? If it just gets unaffordable for your family to go to the grocery store, do you have alternative methods of food that you're eating? Are you growing your own food, right? Now, I'm going to start getting back into sprouting, right? I don't want to say because sprouting is easy, because, at this point, sprouting is a good way to still have your nutritional value without necessarily gardening, number one, and making sure that you're fed and your family's fed. In between, it's just one of those staples that we need to make sure that we have. Do you know how to make alternative foods? And when I say that is, if you can't get your protein from meat and you can get it from beans, what are you doing? Right? What measures and steps have you taken to make sure and ensure that your family is taken care of, right? Some people have looked to like Patriot Supply, and I think they're having a special right now because, everybody was like, okay, with the pandemic, all right, let's get our Patriot Supply. And then everybody, it's kind of backed off. And now people are like, yeah, we're going to be fine. Yeah, I would take advantage of Patriot Supply right now. I'll probably have to put a link in the repost of this, but Patriot Supply is a good way to make sure that you have food on the side, because groceries aren't going to get any cheaper. I mean, it costs $3 for a candy bar right now, y'all. $3. Let's see, a bag of chips is $5. It was one of those things. Now, junk food is a luxury item. And my husband and I were talking about this. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, like with EBT, the EBT people, they can't buy junk food anymore. They can't buy chips, soda, candy, none of that. That's one thing. And then, people that aren't on EBT, that's a luxury item. So what are these grocery stores going to do? Because they can't lower the prices, because then they'll lose money on items like this. Who's buying this? Who's buying the junk food, y'all? That's all I'm saying. I'm just looking at the junk food. Who's buying the junk food? Because nobody can afford it. Who is really out there buying a $3 candy bar? Y'all need to let me know in the chat. Now, Forbes Center reported the Persian Gulf dominates the global fertilizer supply, with countries like Egypt, Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE accounting for roughly 49% of the global urea. The foundation for most crop fertilizers exports 30% of ammonia exports. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins said roughly 25% of farmers hadn't purchased fertilizer for the planting season before the war, and now they face a 30 to 35% price increase, which analysts say are being passed down to consumers. Yeah, so they're not able to fertilize the crops, so it means they're going to have less crops. Supply and demand. This is easy, you guys. You've got more demand, not enough supply. Prices are just going to keep going up. It's crazy. So some of the most affected crops are grain, soy, meats, vegetables, fruit, rice, and sunflower oil, which when adding the price of packaging and transit costs that have also increased, can add between 85 and 120 on average to the American grocery bill. Now, everybody already jumped 300 since COVID. It's jumped, and now it's going to jump again. Yeah. So beyond food and gas, higher energy costs are affecting transportation, manufacturing, and utility costs in the U.S. and abroad as operations at natural gas facilities are disrupted. The data centers, I just thought about it. I was like, the data centers aren't adding anything because they don't need people to run them. In my opinion, these data centers are nothing more than, I don't want to call them a vampire, but it's like a parasite, because they're taking away more than they're giving. They're not adding, they're a deficit, because they're messing up the water supply, first of all, which messes it up for humans, right? No clean water. But on top of that, the energy consumption that they use is going to raise the energy prices for everybody. Everybody's already underwater. So again, are you going to have us begging for a solution that's worse than the problem it solves? This is insane. Where does this lead us? When does it stop? Is the question. When does it really stop? And when do we stop the dependency and gain our independence? Because this, all this money that I'm talking about, that's dependency. That means we've gotten ourselves in a bad spot. And I'll make sure that this link is added in the repost so that you guys can continue to go through this. But I did want to read this last part. It says, to help mitigate prices, the Federal Reserve on Wednesday decided not to increase interest rates, instead keeping them at 3.5 to 3.75. The decision was driven by rising inflation as policymakers maintain a wait-and-see look at the war. It's still a conflict. It's not a war till we get boots on the ground. Yeah. 3.5. Wow. They're like, oh, we won't increase it. At this point, I think a lot of people want the Federal Reserve abolished. It's like you're not making friends right now. People are tired of y'all being a detriment to our lives. You're not making friends. I think you're making a lot more enemies than friends. So I wanted to take a look at this next Fox. Yeah, there's a few of them in regards to TSA, but this one is a conflict update.
This Sunday morning with breaking news on the war on Iran, with President Trump demanding Iran end the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by tomorrow night or face new disaster as Operation Epic Fury enters a fourth week. Even with most of Iran's top leadership killed and its military severely degraded, Iran has managed to intimidate oil tankers from moving through the strait with threatening drones, keeping traffic at a standstill and oil prices elevated. The president posted last night that Iran has 48 hours to end the blockade of the strait, or the U.S. will obliterate Iran's power plants. As the war escalates after Iran fired 2 long-range ballistic missiles at the Navy's support facilities on the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean on Friday, some 2,500 miles away from Iran. Now, neither missile hit the joint U.S.-British military base, but it still is raising concerns that Iran holds ballistic missiles with the potential to reach much of Europe. Meanwhile, the Pentagon finally putting a number on its supplemental defense package, requesting at least $200 billion from Congress to fund ongoing military operations against Iran, as President Trump received some support from allies to secure the Strait of Hormuz, with 20-plus nations signing a pledge to secure the critical waterway, where 20% of the world's oil and gas is supposed to be transported every day. But none of those nations have committed to combat operations or sending naval ships to the region to escort tankers through the strait. The UK said it won't be drawn into a wider war, while Germany stated, quote, "This is not our war." That comment days before Iran's long-range missile traveled to Diego Garcia. The White House is doing everything it can, meanwhile, to reopen the waterway and lower the price of oil, which is now trading just around $100 a barrel, up some 50% since the conflict began 3 weeks ago. As Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told me exclusively on Thursday on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business, that the White House would lift sanctions on Iranian oil that is already out at sea, like they did with Russian oil, which is, in fact, exactly what he did this weekend. The U.S. allowing 140 million barrels of oil on tankers at sea to be sold to the global markets.
We had a break the glass plan across the administration and at Treasury. We unsanctioned Russian oil. We knew that there were about 130 million barrels on the water, and we created supply that is beyond the Straits of Hormuz. So we anticipated this. We knew that there could be a temporary, and I want to emphasize temporary, choke point there. And there was 130 million barrels of floating storage. In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next 10 or 14 days as we continue this campaign.
And joining me now is the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Michael Waltz. Ambassador, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good to be with you, Maria. Thanks.
And I want to talk just about what Treasury Secretary Bessent said. This is not a new opening for Iran to sell oil. The maximum pressure campaign is still on. This is related just to those Iranian crude products that have already been loaded on vessels, correct?
No, that's absolutely right, Maria. President Trump's maximum pressure campaign that he put in place his first term, the Biden administration lifted, and he put it back in place within weeks of starting his second term, is absolutely still on. What Secretary Bessent is referring to are the barrels of oil that are already out at sea, are already going to go to Chinese markets. Now they can go to places like India, Bangladesh, or elsewhere. But here's the thing, and this is what the mainstream media keeps missing, is that the sanctions on the banks are also still in place. So we do not anticipate Iran sees any of that money. This is actually, as the secretary said, using their strategy against them. Their entire strategy, because they've been so defeated militarily, is to sow chaos, attack its neighbors, hold the world's energy supplies hostage, or at least attempt to. And this is yet one more step to defeat that strategy, on top of drill, baby, drill here at home, a waiver to the Jones Act, which allows ships to move between ports. We are going to defeat this strategy. It will be temporary on the part of Iran. And at the end of the day, the United States and our global coalition will prevail.
Well, Ambassador, they may have been defeated militarily, but the Iranians have still managed to cause pain for people by holding that choke point, the Strait of Hormuz, hostage. What is the president going to do in 48 hours, which would be Monday night, if they don't open up the strait?
Well, Maria, as the president announced, he will start by attacking and destroying one of Iran's largest power plants. There are gas-fired thermal power plants and other type of plants, and I want to be clear here before there's, kind of hand-wringing out in the international community. The IRGC, which we've declared a terrorist organization, along with many European countries, control much of Iran's economy, control its critical infrastructure, and continue to power what's left of its war effort through this control of its critical infrastructure. So the president is not messing around. He stands, unlike his predecessors, he stands by his red lines, and he's not going to allow this genocidal regime to hold the world's energy supplies or economies hostage.
Well, it's very concerning that Iran was able to strike and send these intermediate term missiles all the way to Diego Garcia. I know one of the missiles was destroyed en route, but the other one, even though it didn't hit the military operations there, is obviously telling the world that they have these long-time missiles enough to travel and hit much of Europe. How concerned should we be about that?
Well, it's incredibly significant, Maria, because Iran has been marching towards an ICBM. They've hidden some of that development under a so-called space program. I don't think anybody expects to see any Iranian astronauts on the moon, but that's what they've been hiding their booster production in contravention of sanctions behind for some years. They have developed a reentry capability with these intermediate range missiles, and all you have to do is marry up the two with a nuclear warhead. Thank God President Trump isn't waiting until that happens and then trying to respond to it. He's taking care of the issue now, and he has been clear for many, many years. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and he's going to do everything in his power to stop it. And it's not just the president, Maria. As a UN ambassador, I've cited to the Security Council the 2 decades of Security Council resolutions that countries have voted for around the world to ensure Iran doesn't have a nuke. But President Trump isn't just going to send strongly worded letters. When it became clear they were not negotiating in good faith, after he gave diplomacy a chance on multiple occasions, he's taking decisive action before it's too late.
How many more long-range missiles do you believe Iran has?
Well, I don't want to get into any type of classified numbers, but the important part that's also getting missed here is that we are destroying their ability to produce these missiles. We're destroying their industrial base so that future generations, our kids and grandkids, aren't dealing with this problem like we have been the last 50 years.
Ambassador, there is a report this morning that Pentagon officials have made detailed preparations for deploying U.S. ground forces into Iran. What can you tell us?
Well, Maria, I could tell you that our Pentagon, led by Secretary Hegseth and Chairman Dan Kane, are preparing, they're planning, they provide options of trained, in position and well-equipped soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines to the president for him to take the options as he sees necessary to achieve our objectives. So I would fully expect the Pentagon to be planning for all scenarios. You saw these fake CNN reports that they hadn't planned for the Straits of Hormuz. And I can tell you as a veteran former soldier, our Central Command, led by Admiral Cooper, has been planning for these scenarios for many, many years.
Yes,
and so we would expect that to happen.
And a Green Beret at that. Ambassador, thank you for your service to this great nation.
Okay. Yeah. And Trump already said, President Trump, President Trump, even before he was elected the first time, he says, I will not telegraph what we're going to do. We are not going to tell anybody. We're just going to act. And I think everybody can't stand it because this lets you know that there aren't that many leaks happening because the way things are happening. So we'll see. Now, I also wanted to get into this plea from TSA.
This is the longest line that I've seen since maybe 2016, 17. I don't fly often, but it's never this bad.
Been here for about 2.5 hours, and so going to end up just staying at a hotel.
The DHS funding stalemate leading to long lines at airports as a lack of pay prompts more TS agents to resign or decide to find additional work elsewhere. Angela Grana is the regional vice president of the local TSA union in Colorado. I thought but the points that you provided to our producers were so meaningful and have an impact. So I want to take everybody through them. One of the things is tell people about how you came to be a TSA agent.
It's a great job. I had done it before in 2014 in Denver. It's a job that you're constantly problem solving, constantly interacting with people. It's never the same day twice. And it's a way to give back to your community, give back to your country. I never served in the military, but I remember 9/11. I remember exactly where I was. And I think this is the best way for me to give back and protect and to serve my country.
You talked about how you wish that a lot of the storylines weren't so much about the long lines at the airports and more about the workers. How so?
Yeah, I mean, even they started talking about passengers spending the night in the airport. I think it might even be some of my officers themselves spending the night in the airports because they don't have enough money to go home. It's cheaper for them to just spend the night out of uniform, sleep in the airport lounge, and then get up and get back at it again.
You've talked about seeing senior TSA agents resign.
Yeah, they're seasoned employees. They know the job. It takes a long time. It takes up to 2 years to put somebody back in uniform to work on their own, to do their thing on their own. It's crazy that they have to make a decision. Some of these officers are both husband and wife working for the agency. They're not receiving anything now, so they've got to make that hard decision for their family and find other work.
You brought up something that I think is really important for people to understand. Let's just say in our fantasy that the White House and the Democrats come to an agreement today, and that doesn't mean that it's automatically back to normal. And one of your concerns is that if they don't make a decision by the 27th, you go into Easter without money, and then at that point, things get very difficult for these workers.
The despair is going to be through the roof. The anxiety, the sickness in your stomach is going to just be beyond something that they can handle. They need to stay focused on their job. They need to be 100% correct every bag, every passenger. They can't make a mistake, and they cannot be distracted with the problems of home. They cannot be distracted with their responsibilities at home. They need to be fully engaged in their job, and this is throwing them through chaos. And the security of the airports run on our labor. We shouldn't be doing this for free.
My last question to you is I'm just going to read a little bit about what you said and let you take it the rest of the way. You said travelers need to be patient with us, walk a mile in our shoes and see how they would feel. It's un-American to not be paid for a job done. Last word to you.
Exactly. How would they feel? You put on that uniform, you're proud to wear that uniform, you protect and serve your nation, the traveling public. And we feel forgotten. We feel completely forgotten. I don't have a magic word or a magic wand to make everything go away. I am feeling the anxiety just like my fellow workers. How much more can we last? We're not robots. We're human beings. We're human beings, and we deserve to be paid. This can't keep going. This just can't keep going.
Angela, you're an incredible advocate for the TSA workers. We stand with you, and we will stay in touch and hope that this gets resolved very soon. Thank you.
But see how she says we're human beings, we're not robots. We're human beings, we're not robots. See, robots you don't have to pay. Robots would be a cost to the airport to have, and they would be regulated by the government still, right? To ensure safety of American passengers. So, in my opinion, is this an angle to get rid of TSA? Because some people have even suggested, I guess, as of last week, Elon Musk throwing his hat in the ring, I'll pay some of these people to privatize TSA. Would that make it any better if you privatized it? Would it be infiltrated, right, by foreign entities? You have to ask all these questions if you're trying to transition. Even if they went the way of robotics, would that be infiltrated? Who's going to build them? Huh? Are they going to come from other countries that we consider even, they're not allies, they're not complete adversaries, we're kind of frenemies, right? Are we going to build that stuff here at home? Or are we going to bring it in from abroad? I mean, these are questions that we have to ask, because I'm telling you, I'm waiting, because I've seen these airport robots. I'm waiting to see what happens next. Has anybody been to a stadium lately where it's facial recognition? Why in the world do you need my face in a database to go to a football game? But that's happening. What happens when you're doing that in the airport? Because that's what's next. And no one can tell me that it's not next, because we're being conditioned to do it now in an area where it really shouldn't matter. And what I mean by that is because a football game or a baseball game or basketball game is entertainment. But they've got to automate it. Yes, you do have humans standing there for now. Pretty soon there won't be humans standing there. The humans will be in a booth somewhere, just making sure that things are operating and functioning properly. Yeah. Again, this cascade that we really aren't paying attention to, this is conditioning and wanting to beg for a solution worse than a problem it solves.
TSA employees have gone 5 weeks without pay, thanks to the Democrats' shutdown of DHS. But tomorrow, help may be on the way.
We're going to send ICE agents to the airport to help alleviate not only the TSA officers who are overwhelmed and understaffed now because many of them left, but we're going to help the American people transit through the airport quicker and not be held hostage by this foolish shutdown that the Democrats started.
President Trump made the announcement that tomorrow ICE agents will be assisting TSA at airports, which couldn't come at a more crucial time, as more than 400 TSA agents have left the workforce, probably to look for other work. Madison Scarpino is live in Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta with the latest. Madison, what you got?
Hey, Joey. Well, it has been a mess here all day long. Passengers have been waiting in line for hours to make their flights, as TSA workers are still getting $0 paychecks. But I want to give our viewers the perspective of a traveler. So I met a friend named Rich. Rich, if you can tell everyone how long you've been waiting in line, were you expecting this, and just how you're feeling?
Yeah, hey, Madison. Yeah, I was kind of expecting it. I've been in line now for about an hour and 45 minutes. Probably got an hour more to go. And I've been tracking it for the last several days. No, I'm on my way to Las Vegas. So I think I'm pretty well getting close to the end zone over here. So I think we're good.
And you told me earlier enough time to get a meal and a cocktail.
Yeah, enough time to get in there and sit down and get me a nice meal, a nice cocktail. After all this, yeah, it gets a little stressful, but yeah.
It would be much deserved. And this is all happening, of course, because TSA workers are not getting paid. President Trump says that he's going to be sending in ICE agents starting tomorrow to airports to help hopefully alleviate some of these lines, some of this mess. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought they're too late. And I'm just really disappointed on both sides of the aisle that people that live paycheck to paycheck, they're not getting paid. And finally, we're going to send ICE in to make it happen, to kind of relieve some of the stress that everybody goes through. So, yeah, it's not a good situation.
Well, thank you for your time, Rich. Hopefully everything goes okay with your flight. Hoping that for everyone flying in the next few days. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Madison. Thank you very much. Feel for that guy.
Thanks.
Reporters are Tom Homan sparred with CNN anchor Dana Bash today over ICE's deployment to the airports as she tried to bait him on a gotcha question. But of course, Tom Homan, that man's always prepared.
Are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
ICE agents receive a high level of training. And, the ICE agents are assigned at many airports across the country already. Certainly a highly trained ICE law enforcement officer can cover an exit. See an ICE agent looking at an x-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs, help move those lines.
Yeah, she tried again to box him in, sounding doubtful that ICE could possibly.
So I will definitely post so you can see the rest of that video. I actually had another video that she asked him some other questions, but yes, that's what ICE is going to be there to do. And they are trained in security, where the ICE agents that are actually trained on, getting people through the lines, they can then subvert those individuals that are able to still be there from the security part and just put ICE on the security part. Now you got to remember, these ICE agents, they're getting paid. They're paid because they're considered essential. I wonder how many TSA workers went and applied to be ICE agents. Just saying. They could do that. They could totally do that and get their training and have actually overlap, right, in their positions. See, we didn't really ask that question. How many TSA agents said, okay, ICE is getting paid. I'm still under DHS. Maybe I should go work over here. Again, you have to just ask yourself that question. And we're going to get into this last video. It's very short, but at the very beginning of it, it does give some information that we need to be abreast of.
Be on camera for this one, guys. It's late night, but I wanted to bring you what is happening in LaGuardia. Take a listen to this.
There has been an incident at LaGuardia Airport in which an Air Canada aircraft has collided into a fire truck on the runway. You can see it was just about to cross over onto an active runway when it struck this vehicle right here. LaGuardia is now closed because of this incident. The information that we're getting out now is that this is Jazz 646. It is a CHR 900. It flew from Montreal. It collided with a fire truck. We do have audio from air traffic control. I'll play you in a second, but we also have some videos coming in just of this aircraft moments after it crashed. And this is the video of the aircraft just moments after the crash, and emergency vehicles are nearby. And now for the audio.
Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop. Delta 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jazz 646. Jazz 646, I see you collide with a vehicle here, just hold position. I know you can't move. The vehicles are responding to you now.
There are unconfirmed casualties at this time. As soon as we get more details, I'll be sure to let you know. So please do share this video and follow me for more.
Breaking news out of New York City, where an Air Canada aircraft collided with a fire engine on the runway of LaGuardia Airport, according to air traffic controller audio that has been released. People have listened in on that audio. It has been recorded. I played it in the last video I made, but this is a absolutely terrible looking accident. The entire cockpit appears to be gone from this airplane. Here is another shot where you can see that the airplane is tipped upwards after hitting that fire engine, allegedly. And here's another closer view. As you can see, this is taken from the window of another plane. It appears it is absolutely raining. It's very poor visibility. Absolutely gruesome. And according to Flight Radar 24, New York's LaGuardia Airport is now currently closed due to the Air Canada Express CRJ 900 colliding with the ground vehicle that appeared to be a fire truck.
Now, I want to show you guys the longer version of this footage that's going out of what actually happened over the radio. And I'm going to show you a couple more things, but I want to tie this into perhaps what is going on, what we're seeing not only with the war, what we know with the threats of terrorist attacks, what we know of, but I think the main thing is the government shut down the funding of parts of DHS. And one of those parts is TSA and the long lines and the flights canceled. I mean, it's just been complete chaos. We're hearing about gas is about to skyrocket. United CEO saying that the flights are going to have to increase like substantially. I gave you that article the other day when I, was seeing what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and the war. Everything is coming together. Everything is tying together. So I'm going to bring you more on this tomorrow. Make sure you guys are subscribed because there is a deeper layer you need to hear about. If you have not already, they are ushering us towards an appointed end. It has been laid out. It has been spoken about for years. They have it in brochures and every single thing lays out. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and then we'll get into that.
Stop there, please. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop. Del 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jet 646. Jet 646, I see you collide with vehicle here, just hold position. I know you can't move. Vehicles are responding to you now.
Is the runway closed?
Del 2603, go around, runway heading 2000.
Heading 2000, go around, 2603.
See a tower.
Truck 2, runway 4 is closed, correct?
Yes, go on to runway 4 now. Proceed on runway 4, you have access.
Tower, Carna 0, runway 422 is closed at this time.
90, roger.
LaGuardia Tower, vehicle 98.
98. Vehicle 98.
Vehicle 98, please show at this time. Runway 422 is closed. I repeat, runway 422 is closed at this time.
Tower, Carna 0, LaGuardia Airport is closed at this time.
So 2603, runway 3000, go to approach 2020 now.
3000, over.
Okay, so you saw that. Now, what I want to show you next is this just came out, okay, today at 3:25 this Sunday. Well, what time is it now? Okay, it's past it. It's Monday now, but you get the point, right? Take a look.
So on screen it says the estimated wait time is 3 hours for general boarding. This is what the airports are looking like all over the country. And that was Melanie King, and I'll definitely make sure to put this link in the repost so you guys can watch the entire video. But she does show the interview from Tom Homan, gets into that. And like she was saying, a lot of this is a part of a broader plan to destabilize the United States. The question is, are we as the citizens of this country going to stand up and say no more? Are we going to demand better representation at the federal level? Because if we had better representation, we wouldn't be here right now. Period. The end. And I know a lot of people say, well, you got this back and forth. No, we literally have a party demanding that illegals stay here and get resources. They're doing that. On top of putting in a state religion, which is a cult. Yes, they've done that. And we're standing around continuing to put the same people in office. It can't stand anymore. And it needs to change, and it starts with us. So thank you guys so much for joining me here on the Monday recap of Unfiltered Vision News. Tomorrow we'll be back with Tell It All Tuesday. So thank you so much for joining us here. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.